We're going to look at the chords for this track, and then that beautiful guitar part that plays over the top. It's quite minimal guitar that goes on in the background, apart from that lovely riff that plays over the intro and the chorus. But there are some really simple open chords that you can play, but we're going to spice them up just a little bit, and then you can tone it down if you need to after. So we're going to start with a D major, just that single strum. Into a D major 7, we're laying our first finger across the 2nd fret of the G, B and E, open D string. Then we're going into an A minor at 11 over C. So we've got that C note in there which continues that rundown that you can hear in the track. And then we go to a G over B. So that's just 2nd fret of the A string, 2nd finger. We've got all those open strings underneath. Catch that high E as well if you want. Technically becomes a G6 over B there, but you don't need to worry too much about that. Then we repeat that D into an A add 11. So we get that nice high open E in there. C add 9. And then we can do our G over B again. Drums and the bass kick in. D, we repeat that first riff. D major 7. A minor at 11. We're going to do a full bodied G this time. That bass is in there now, so it feels nice to reinforce that and have that full bodied G chord. Back to the D. A at 11 with that high E. Now here I've seen this played as an F. I think we can do it as a D minor over F. Or we can just play that open D, A and C. I think that sounds quite nice in the track. And then up to the G. Just gives it a little bit more tension. That F works in there as well. Up to the G. Remember there's a little push to each of those chords. So we start on the first beat, but then we are going on the and for the start of the next chord. So we can count that if we need to. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that does that for the first 2 bars, and then the start of the 3rd bar when the drums and the bass come in, you're back on beat 1 and you do that same push again, then you go into the verse on beat 1 of the D major chord. So just quickly, if those chords are a bit tricky, I've seen people just play it as D, A, C, G. You lose those little bits of tension and emotion that add that extra character to it, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with playing those easier, beginner-friendly open chords if you want to, and then you can start to embellish things afterwards. Let's drop down into those verses. Remember, we got those little pushes. We start on the first beat, on the D major. We go into that D major 7. You don't have to catch that high E, but it does sound quite nice in there. A minor at 11, and then we've got our G over B. Repeat that. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We do that 4 times until we lift up into the chorus and things start to open up a little bit more here. We start on that D again on the first beat. Remember you got the little push. We go into an A at 11 this time. That high open E really resonates nice within the track. Then C at 9. And then up to a full bodied G. D again, A at 11, that D minor over F, remember we did it with the 3 fingers there, the D, the G and the B on the 3rd, 2nd and 3rd fret, or we just do an open D, 2nd fret of the G, 1st fret of the B, up to our full bodied G. We can start to add a strumming pattern here as well, and again be conscious of that push. We can just do it as down strums, but we don't want to be too rigid with it. We want to try and sit in the groove of the track. With the count. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on beat 1 for the verses. And then you can just repeat those verse chords for that second verse, and then you reintroduce those chorus chords with the slight changes, the C add 9 in there, and then that open D, second fret of the G, and the first fret of the B, or the D minor over F. And in that last chorus through to the outro, those pushes happen for 2 bars. So after every 2 bars, when you start a third bar, you go back to that first beat with your D, and then you reintroduce those pushes. And then the track just ends on that D major. Now again, there is some variations throughout that track with those chords and those little lead licks that are sitting alongside that main riff that goes over the top. But I thought with these chords, at least you can play along to the track. They're not too complicated. They're that sort of middle ground from having that standard D, A, C, G, and then see if you can find little embellishments that can go on top and take it even further. Let's have a little look at that lead riff. We are starting with our first and second finger on the G and the B string, 7th fret. We can catch that high E as well. And we're going to retain those pushes that we spoke about earlier. Now we slide up there to the 9th fret of the G, 8th fret of the B. You might see some people just play that B string with the open E. I think as we're sliding up, it's quite nice to reinforce that open E with the E note again on the 9th fret of the G. Little fingers playing the 10th fret of the B. And then we move that third and little finger up to the 14th fret of the G and B. Lovely. Little run down there. We've still got the open E, where we've got 12th fret of the B, 10th fret of the B. Slide back in, that's where that tension comes. Instead of the B string playing the 14th fret, it now plays a C note on the 13th fret. Same run down with that B, 10th and 12th, 12th and 10th. We're now on the 12th fret of the G and B. Continuing that rundown, 10, 8 on the B with the open E in there as well. Let's play all of that rundown together. If it's quite hard for you to do those slides, I quite like it because you go back and then you slide into the next chord. You can stay in the same position. You can pick that A note out on the 14th fret of the G rather than sliding back to the 10th fret of the B. Okay, but I'll play it with the slide once more and we'll go into the next bit. To where we started, but this time we're working our way down. 7th fret, we do a little push up to the 8th fret, back to the 7th on the B, and then we're going to the 6th fret of the G, 5th fret of the B. Our little finger comes onto the 7th fret of the B. Starting that run down, back to the 4th fret of the G. Brief little period on there, the 4th and the 3rd fret of the G and B. And then our 3rd finger comes down to the 5th fret of the G. Let's do that together. See that little push? And then it's 7 pushes down on that position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ringing out into the verses, at the end of the track, while starting that riff again. So let's do that second half once more. Instead of sliding up to the 7th fret, you could just ring out your D major chord. Let's try that all together. And don't worry about bringing that E in every time. It could just be a little note that sings underneath it whenever you want. Start to add your own little touch to that, and you'll be playing a combination of what the guitars are doing alongside each other in the original track. There are plenty more tutorials for you to go and have a look at on the channel. I've also got a completely free guitar course, links in the description if you want to check that out. And if you want to know how to get good at guitar, then the video that's popping up now is a good place to start. Cheers for checking the video. I really appreciate it. Hopefully catch you again soon.